In this section, I'm going to show you how to safely use an oxy-acetylene cutting torch. Okay, this oxy-acetylene cutting torch produces a flame of around 6,300 degrees, and it'll burn for about 3-4 hours at that temperature. Now, as you can imagine, it takes a lot of fuel and a lot of air to maintain a flame of 6,300 degrees for that much time. The reason we can do that is we have the gas, the oxygen, and the acetylene is compressed. The oxygen is compressed to 2,200 pounds per square inch, and the acetylene is compressed to 250 pounds per square inch. Now, the danger comes from if this compressed air is released immediately. If this, let's say this cap right here, it was to get knocked over, and this cap gets broken off, this valve gets broken off, then all of this air is going to come out of right at the top of there, 200 or 2,200 psi. It's going to come out of a hole that big around. So this thing weighs, when it's full, it might weigh maybe about 150 pounds. So 2,200 pounds coming out of a small hole is going to make this thing dance all around the shop, and it will be very, very dangerous. So anytime we move these bottles, they're chained whenever they're on the cart, but anytime we get ready to move them, you take this part off, and this cap screws right on to here, and it makes it fairly safe. Okay. Now, whenever we turn the torch on, you want to make sure you stand to the side here, and I'll explain that in just a moment. But you stand to the side, and there's two seats, two things that keep this 2,200 pounds from leaking out. There's a needle in here, and it's got a seat at the bottom that closes. Whenever you close it off, that needle closes down on the seat, and it keeps it from leaking out, and it cuts the bottle off. Okay, now when we turn the bottle on, you want to turn it all the way on. Okay, now this needle goes up to the top and keeps oxygen or compressed air from leaking out around around this handle right here. Okay, as I said, you want to stand to the side. Okay, now this one, okay, I turned this one on, and it looks like it's got about 1,000 pounds in it. Okay, now that shows us the pressure that's in the tank. Okay, next, you turn this T-handle right here, and you'll turn it up to about 20 or 30 pounds. Should be sufficient for this. Okay, now after you turn this one on, then you turn the oxygen on. Now you turn the acetylene on. And when you turn it on, you don't turn it on all the way. You turn it until it cracks, until the high pressure gauge moves, and then you turn it another half a turn. And the way I do that, as soon as after I see that needle move, then I give it I'll put my thumb where my finger was, and put my finger where my thumb was, and give it a half a turn. Okay, now, compressed oxygen, there are some dangers involved with compressed pure oxygen. I guess other than just the pressure itself, it would be that the way things burn in pure oxygen. If you were to take a lit cigarette and put it in the presence of pure oxygen, it would burst into flames. If you were to take a sealed canister and smear some type of petroleum product, grease inside of it, and hit it with pure oxygen, that grease could detonate. So there's a danger involved with this. If the acetylene were to ever get into these gauges right here, acetylene is a hydrocarbon. If the acetylene ever gets into these gauges, and now you turn it on, that pure oxygen gets inside these gauges here, and it's already got that acetylene in there, it'll do just like that grease inside that canister, and it could very well explode. Now what happens is, the reason that this acetylene could get backed up into here, right here there's a mixing valve. So here we have our acetylene, here we have our oxygen valve, this is the cutting valve, and this is the mixing valve. Now the danger comes when inside this mixing valve right here, there's a mixing chamber in here, the O-rings get bad. So now what happens is, whenever you turn the oxygen on, the pressure goes up through here, comes back out and goes into the opposite tank, opposite hoses and opposite tank, and now you have oxygen into the acetylene side, or you have acetylene into the oxygen side. So for that reason, you always want to turn the oxygen on first. Now, like I said, we put 30 or 40 pounds on here for our oxygen, and the acetylene on the low pressure side, we've only got about 5 or 6. So if we put pure oxygen into here, or compressed oxygen into here at 20 or 30 pounds, then that little old 5 pounds is never 5 pounds of acetylene will never make it up into here, and so it's fairly safe. So just remember, stand to the side, turn the oxygen on first, pressurize the system, and then turn the acetylene on. Now, as you're doing this, if you turn the oxygen cylinder on and this gauge goes up, then you shouldn't use the torch. It's extremely dangerous. You should either go get an instructor or go to the welding supply shop and let someone there look at it. Okay, now when we get ready to light this torch, this is first thing you want to do is put your shade 5s on. Okay, when you get ready to light the torch, you'll turn the acetylene on, light it. Get you a pretty good flame going. Okay, now our oxygen, this one's already been turned on, but your oxygen is turned all the way to the left to turn it on. Now it won't flow yet. It won't flow until you either turn this handle and mix oxygen into it, or you hit the cut lever. If you hit the cut lever first, it's going to blow it out. So real easy. You open this up, you open it too fast, it'll blow it out too. Okay, so now we get our neutral flame, and there's a small inner cone here. You want to adjust it until that inner cone just does disappear. Okay, now when you get ready to cut, you get your cut lever. You can see how dirty this torch is. This flame should be out as far as it is whenever the cut lever is not being hit. See how short it is? This tip's extremely dirty. So we'll clean the tip. I'll show you how to do that, and then we'll cut some metal. Let's clean this tip up. Okay, now the first thing we need to talk about is why the tip gets dirty. And as you're cutting with the torch, occasionally a couple pieces of slag, which is the material that you're cutting, will pop up and it'll get stuck to the end of the tip here, and it'll close those holes up somewhat, and it will make it where it won't cut very good. It's pretty simple to clean. You get this tip cleaning kit here. It's got somewhat of a file here with different size. It's got a flat file with different size round files. What you do is, you take this file, you hold the torch like this, and you just file across the top of it. And this file, it doesn't really file a whole lot, but it's really not supposed to. All it's supposed to do is just get those little balls off of there. Now you will want to cut the oxygen off when you do this. The reason that I have you cut the oxygen off, if you happen to lean over on this cut lever and oxygen starts pumping out of here, and maybe it's real noisy in here and you're not going to hear that oxygen coming out of here, and it could fill your sleeve up, saturate your shirt with pure oxygen, and if you were to happen to get a spark over on your shirt with that pure oxygen in there, it could catch your shirt on fire. So just make sure you turn the oxygen off before you start to clean this tip. Okay, so you just give this a couple of licks with this file, just to shine it up a little bit. And you can take the tip out of the torch when you do this if you want to. It's really not completely necessary. but you can if you want to. I think the reason a lot of people take them out, this little bit of copper that they file, they don't want it to get down in there and possibly get in your mixing chamber. So they'll take the tip off of there. One way to get around doing that is after you get finished, you turn your oxygen and your acetylene on. Before you cut, you just blow them both out good with the compressed gases. Okay, you look through here, you find the one that you need, and this one looks like about the smallest one. And you just put it in each hole, give it a quick little ring. And don't take much, just stick it down in there and out a couple times. And really what you got to get out off these holes is the little bit of copper. Whenever you use that file, that copper gets smeared across the top of those holes and restrict the gas flow. Now these torches, they have 6 preheat holes and 1 cut hole. The 6 preheat holes are arranged in a circle around the outside edge here of this tip, and then the 1 cutting hole is right in the center. Now if you're going to be making a straight cut, you will put one of those preheat holes in front of the direction of travel. You'll put 1 preheat hole behind the direction of travel, 2 here and 2 here. That'll make up a total of 6. Now if we're going to be cutting a bevel cut where we're going to angle the torch, now you will put 2 preheat holes in front, 2 preheat holes behind the direction of travel, 1 here and 1 here, and that will be 6. Okay, I've got the preheat holes, which that's where the acetylene and oxygen mixture comes out. I've got them clean. Okay, now I'm going to choose a larger file. The preheat hole is normally larger, or the cutting hole is normally larger than the preheat hole. And I'll just give that a few pushes down in there, and it cleans it right out. Okay, that looks like a good clean tip. We'll see if we can't make a couple cuts. And here's what a brand new tip looks like. Let's see if I can notice the 6 preheat holes around the outside and the 1 oxygen hole right in the center. Like the acetylene, reduced oxygen, and right there's the intercone. We're going to adjust it so that intercone just doesn't go away. Like Alright, to make a cut, start, you put the preheat flames right on the edge. And you see it become fluid. Hit the cut lever and travel. Alright, I'm going to turn the tank all the way on. Let that seat at the top seal. You'll notice I have about 1700. This is the high pressure side. I have about 1700. And we're looking at the red numbers here. Okay, on this side, I'm going to adjust this end until this gets up to about 30. And that's the low pressure side. This tells me what I have in the tank. This tells me what I have in the hose. Alright, this is the acetylene tank. And remember this one, I'm going to turn it on. Now whenever I see the gauge move, then I give it another half a turn. I just put my thumb where my index finger was and put my index finger where my thumb was. Okay, now I'm going to have about 6 pounds on this side. Okay, remember that this one tells me how much pressure I have in the tank. It looks like I got about 160 pounds. And this tells me how much pressure I have in the hose. Okay, now a common mistake that people make, they will, let me shut this back off. I'm going to drain it out. A common mistake that people make, they will turn this on, and some of these, now this one jumps right up, comes right on. Some of them you may have to turn that 3/4, maybe a turn before this needle valve even moves. So they'll make a mistake and not turn this on far enough. Now when they turn this up, they put it on 6 and their pressure will drop. This one's not going to do it because I have it set a little closer, but their pressure will drop. And if that happens, all you do is shut everything back off, drain it, and start over. Back this off. Alright, now start over. When it moves, give it another half a turn, and then set that pressure there. Let's take a closer look at the torch tip here. And you can see it has 6 small preheat holes around the outside, and the one large hole in the center is the oxygen cutting hole. And I don't know if you can see down in there or not. It's just the only moving parts really is a lever, 2 levers, and a gear, and that's about it. And those gears are real sensitive. They're real precise. Now when you turn the acetylene or the oxygen torch on, you'll want to turn it on slowly. You want to. All right, here we go. One more time. Make sure all the valves are shut off. Now we stand to the side, turn the oxygen on. Slowly, turn it all the way up. Open this valve all the way. It's the high pressure side. All right, now we set the low pressure side. We'll set it on about 30. I'm going to reach around. Once I see that gauge move, I'm going to give it another half a turn. Set the low pressure side at about 6. We'll get ready to light. Turn the oxygen all the way on. Just crack the acetylene. Light it. Don't forget to shake vibes. Light it till we get a nice strong flame. Introduce the oxygen. Get the cut level, make our final adjustment. There you go. We cut it off. Cut the mixing valve off first. Cut the acetylene off. Cut the acetylene tank off. The oxygen tank. Turn it off. Drain both lines and gauges. And back the T-handles out. All right there. There you go. Oxy fuel cut.